All right, folks. Welcome back to the channel. You found us here at KGB Customs, home of what we believe is some of the best custom gun content on the web. We share these custom guns in hopes of sharing some knowledge and to help ourselves catalog some of these great pieces that come through our shop. Thank you for tuning in. If you're not already, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. It helps us and helps other people find us, which is important for our business. And I'd also like to add to that, if you really liked the things we present here, jump down to the link in the description and sign up for our email list. The email list gets you first notice of new arrivals here and first notice of any other shop news that we see fit to share. It's not an email list that emails you 6 times a day. Usually once or twice a week is all the more we have reason to contact you via the email list. So I appreciate everyone who joins that as well. It's become a very important part to us because a lot of social media platforms that we use to communicate with customers and find customers before are not super friendly to this type of business. Today we've got just a lovely but very interesting Ted Yost custom. This Yost custom is built on a Colt Commander 38 Super, and that would make it interesting enough. But as you see, this gun is matte black from top to bottom. And you think, well, surely somebody's refinished this Yost. And that is not the case. Ted has long been a fan of Black-T finish and has used Black-T on many builds for many years. And if we crack the old build sheet here, we'll see that the second last point here is Birdsong Black-T applied to all parts. Now, I'm sure that wouldn't have been his first choice to Black-T this gun, but when the right customer asks you and has the right reason for these things, you take a heirloom grade gun and finish it in a matte black finish. Now, nothing against Black-T. This gun is super handsome and presents really beautifully. It's just a stark difference from Ted's other pinnacle type guns, and this is a pinnacle grade conversion. You know, with handmade grips and a handmade magwell for it to be finished in matte black coating like this. But there is no shortage of perfected work on this gun. Ted, of course, is far too skilled to let a coating hide any prep issues or shortcomings there. Even the slide top on these Colts is always rough as a cob because they were finished up against a grinding wheel at the factory. So Ted prepped this gun as though it was going to be blued and then had Black-T applied because that's what the customer wanted. A little bit more about the pinnacle conversion from Ted. Of course, it's a welded and refit slide. The lines of the frame straightened, and that's something worthy of note. Ted was certainly not the first to straighten lines on a Colt. There were guys fairing in lines during the early 80s, certainly. And this line here especially is usually the worst offender. But also keeping the thickness of the guard the same all the way around as doable. And these dust cover lines can tend to skew one way or the other because, again, those rounds were finished on a large grinding wheel. So they would come out of the forging process, the gun would get machined, and then, you know, Cletus at the buffing station would take that and grind it off round. So any slight differential in the way he held that gun that day would show up in those lines. A frame and slide completely detailed, flattened and serrated in the curved arrow pattern on the top of the slide, kind of Ted's signature package and had been for many years. Yost proprietary 24 karat gold line front sight. This one is 1/10 thousandths wide, so it is a narrower special front sight. His standard ones are 125, like pretty much everyone else's standard is 125. This gun has a Bomar style rear sight, and that's of course buried in deluxe install with the windage inlet there, like Jim Hogue did them back in the day. Another interesting part about this gun is it is hand checkered at 25 LPI, so a slight change from Ted's usual 30 LPI, slightly more aggressive checkering on this gun. And that plus the finish kind of leads you to believe that the original commissioner for this gun sort of saw its intention as a actual hard use heirloom, we'll call it. So yes, it's a Yost Pinnacle grade. Yes, it has handmade, hand rubbed oil finish stocks on it. Yes, it's a very expensive piece of kit, but you know, this dog will still hunt. It was built to run. Sadly, looking at it, the gun's probably never been shot since it was built. But that's the way with a lot of these things. You know, you get it and you marvel at it and you're like, man, I can't put that in a holster. It's just too perfect. Going down the gun, of course, we've got bar stock internals. This gun does have a short trigger in it. Bar stock hammer. It's got the elongated commander style hammer there. Wilson beaver tail with Ted's widow's peak there at the back. Even though he didn't polish this around here like he does on his blued guns, work is still there. The work was put in regardless. The gun has a single-sided Wilson bulletproof thumb safety. The slide stop is a bar stock part as well. We see Ted's sweeping serrations on the bottom, hand cut. The top serrations are removed. Bar stock mag catch also serrated there. And we've got really just a killer set of black walnut grips, handmade by Ted. And if you've never held a 1911 with custom made grips, and I don't just mean you order a set of custom grips and slap them on your gun, that's great and often an improvement over the stock units. But custom made grips to the frame, it's a feeling that's really kind of hard to equate, as the rounds and the grips, you know, the checkering field and the grips and the mainspring housing, it all, you kind of close your eyes and it all just sort of feels like one continuous surface. Again, that's hard to capture in video, hard to capture in photos, but once you put a gun that has grips that are masterfully shaped in your hands, it kind of alters your perception of all of your other grips. I encourage you to get out there and try it, because you might see this and say, there's no way I'd pay an extra whatever Ted wants to charge for a custom set of grips. This gun has Ted's proprietary magwell on it. I've discussed weld on magwells in other videos, but Ted, unsatisfied with the look of the parts that were available on the market, and just to set himself apart, makes his own magwells. So he starts and he solders on a piece of bar stock and then plunge cuts in and opens up the magwell. You see it's a very generous magwell opening. I would wager it's bigger than like a Smith & Alexander or a Wilson extended magwell unit. But being a soldered on unit and cutting the frame keeps the length of the gun the same. The height of the gun is the same as the original piece. And where Ted's magwells really, really shine is this gentle mating and sweeping here. The way it comes into the checkering, again, making that all one surface. There's nothing drop-in about this. This is all hand-filed in here and masterfully done. A guy like myself who builds these things, it inspires me to do better. Because this magwell here, I know how much work a Chen magwell is, and that has a lot of the work done for you. And it also prevents you from doing some of the things that this magwell does well, in that blending of the surfaces, blending of the lines, the way the corner of the grips and the corner of the front strap and the edge of the magwell meet down here is peerless. It can't be beat. Anyway, I've gushed on that long enough. But the Black-T finish is another thing worth mentioning. I said earlier that Ted, has long time used Black-T finish. I know he used it on scout rifles and stuff at gunsight and used it on all manner of pistols through the years. And Black-T can trace its lineage back to the 70s when I believe it's Walter Birdsong, but W.E. Birdsong Sr., a chemist in Mississippi, began experimenting with finishes. He was very frustrated with the rampant rust and corrosion that affected his metal firearms because of the humid and harsh environments in which he lived. Birdsong sought a superior alternative finish, something better than bluing or parkerizing. His goal was a treatment that minimized maintenance while preserving functionality and aesthetics. Over several years of trial and error, Birdsong developed a thin film coating, 0.3 to 0.7 mils thick, which is pretty thin, based on a PTFE, which I'm going to try and pronounce what that means. Forgive me, chemists. Polytetrafluoroethylene, which is akin to Teflon, matrix, with graphite and other proprietary elements, so that's the secret sauce, applied by a spray and bake process over 2 undercoats. It chemically bonds to metal like steel, aluminum, and titanium. So on this gun, we have an aluminum trigger here, also black T. The gun, all carbon steel, all finished in black T, forming a satin black self-lubricating surface. Black T eliminated the need for external lubrication, and due to its low coefficient of friction, it provides exceptional salt spray resistance, up to 1,500 plus hours in testing, which is pretty good. It really gained traction in the 80s. By the early 80s, Birdsong formalized the process and began offering it commercially through his small operation in Florence, Mississippi. True to his style, he avoided advertising and relied instead on the networks of military and special operations and law enforcement, and relied on that organic spread, and early adopters were putting his finish on everything from rifles, pistols, tools, handcuffs, you name it. Black Tea was then trademarked, and related products like green tea, which is not a drink, it's an OD green finish akin to black tea. The interesting thing about green tea, which I didn't know until I started researching this, I just thought it was another color they offered because OD green was super hot in the 90s and early 2000s on guns. But green tea was initially infrared reflective for tactical camouflage, but it was modified in the 1990s at the FBI's request to reduce detectability, so they removed the infrared reflective nature from it. Independent testing and user feedback highlighted its superiority over contemporaries like Guncoat, Duracoat, and even Robar Rogard. For instance, gunsmiths noted it as the best of the Teflon finishes for its wear resistance without being as rigid as hard chrome. So without being as rigid as hard chrome means if you knock an edge, it's not going to flake on you. If you drop it and bang it against something, it will scuff and it will scratch, as any finish would, but it's not going to chip like hard chrome could do. In the 1990s and 2000s, by the mid-90s, black tea became a specified finish for the U.S. government agencies. The FBI's hostage rescue team mandated it for their rifles and 1911 pistols, citing its performance in extreme conditions. Another shop that used black tea was Les Baer. Les Baer did work with the HRT team. Other entities included SWAT teams and federal contractors, followed with reports of coated firearms enduring thousands of rounds without corrosion, even in holster wear zones, which means that the finish is doing something, polymerizing the surface of the metal. Even when the finish is removed, it is protecting the metal to some degree. There are, of course, user reviews out there. One gentleman has a 20-plus-year-old coated set of handcuffs that's been exposed to blood, sweat, and weather and retains 90% of its original finish. And that's impressive. It's just 20 years of carrying it. You would think it would lose half of its finish. So black tea found interest in the knife community as well. There's lots of knives through the years that have been finished in black tea. Birdsong Sr. passed away in 2009. Luckily, he had brought his sons into the business early, and his sons had long been involved in the business by the time he passed away, and they took over, maintaining the original formulation, and they even added, of course, 2009 is, peak desert warfare season in the Middle East, and we saw tan everything. So his sons knew that that was something they should explore, and they came up with desert tan tee and dark earth tee. Birdsong's still in business, still applying coatings. I know several of my customers have sent guns to them in the last year or two. One was a gun that had been Birdsong green tee. Whole gun was OD green. Customer didn't really love that, but it was a really nice custom gun, and he sent that in and had black tee put over. They removed the green tee for him and put on black. Really hope you guys enjoyed this. A little different than the run-of-the-mill Yost, and one that is really just begging to be dropped in a leather holster and carried for the next 30 years. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you got anything to add, feel free to leave a comment. And like I said, drop into the link in the description if you're not already on our email list. We'd sure love to have you there. Thank you.